you're going to pursue something that is easy, probably you kind of need to rethink whether this is what your goal is as well, because it's called a goal because it shouldn't be easy in general. So I kind of expected that.
Welcome to The Defense Never Rests with Morgan and Akins, your monthly dose of uncommon sense about all things legal and some that are not.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Defense Never Rests. I am your host, Trisha Baxter. And today I am sitting down with a young lawyer that I came across on LinkedIn that just crushes it, and in life and in social media and in talent. And I mean, I could probably go on and on. He is 25 years old and has probably done more in his 25 years than I have in my 47. Gordon Chang, if you're on LinkedIn and you haven't been following him, I highly suggest that you do it. He really talks about his goal of working internationally as a lawyer and his struggles that he went through to achieve that goal. And now he shares his struggles with other people. His goal really is to help other law students and students who want to work and study and practice internationally, how he did it, and to make it a little bit easier for them. So I'm so excited about this episode. He also crushes social media. I mean, crushes it. And he really can teach us old folks a thing or two, I should say, about maybe what we're doing wrong. So without further ado, welcome, Gordon. Well, hey, Gordon, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. I have to say you're my first overseas podcast. So I feel like I've made a first here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Patricia. It's my pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me today. And definitely, I've been, looking at your work on social media and LinkedIn, your presence. I'm more than happy to join your podcast. So, and let's see, what we can talk about anything, I think.
We could go for a couple hours, but there's a couple things that I would love to hit. Before we do that, I'd love to just get into your background. Let's start with, where were you born and raised?
Well, actually, I was originally born in China, but probably I moved to Hong Kong when I was probably 2 months old. So basically, I was kind of raised in Hong Kong for the majority of my life. So I studied my high school there, did my undergraduate degree there. So when I was, I think, 22 or 22, probably, I moved to the UK and I went on to do my master's degree at Cambridge. And I kind of did the whole year master's degree thing. Kind of that made a difference to my life in terms of, I realized I really want to work in a different country, because I just feel overwhelmed by the different cultures I was exposed to, and also the kind of people I met. They were nothing like what I met back home, because back home or in your own country, you always know people who are kind of similar to you. It's kind of within your comfort zone when you always see similar kinds of people, or people kind of with a similar culture, history, or memories, or kind of experiences. So it's just, it was just kind of natural to me when I experienced the life in the UK. I wanted to pursue something different, or to try something new.
So you were raised in Hong Kong. What was that like?
Yeah.
I know you have some perspective now because you live in a different country, but what was it like in retrospect growing up in Hong Kong before you left?
Yeah, I think some of the people also know kind of Hong Kong is an international city. It was also pretty international that everyone speaks English in general. So we were exposed to that side of in terms of the Western culture. So, and even in terms of the legal profession, I think it's pretty similar to the UK or US in some senses, the kind of law we have been doing, common law systems. And also there are lots of for example, international law firms. So many, it's one of the leading legal markets as well. So I just feel living in Hong Kong made me feel it's kind of it's very international, and I really enjoy the international vibe. So that's why whenever I want to live in somewhere, I always choose somewhere that I feel I could be exposed to different kinds of culture or exciting things around. So I feel places like Hong Kong, London, New York, they are kind of similar in the senses that there's a lot going on in the city, and I love that energy or the excitement of that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I ended up moving from a smaller town to Philadelphia, and I love the
Yeah.
energy of it. And, I lived downtown for a while, and one of my favorite things was just to walk outside and pick up that energy. So I'm with you. So you went to, and forgive me, I'm not all that familiar with the educational system in Hong Kong. Is it the same as the
No
US
worries.
and UK? Do you go to high school? How does that work?
Yeah, it's the same. Like you go to kindergarten for probably 2-3 years, and then have primary school for 6 years, and then you go to the high school for another 6 years as well, and then you do a public examination. After the public examination, it's kind of weird. Like sometimes I think the educational system like probably is similar in other countries in terms of you pass the exam, it kind of change your life, because if you choose some subjects or domain that, because like what we say, for me, for example, I didn't come from a really wealthy family or anything. It's probably kind of not even middle class, to be honest. And for me, it was like probably it was a chance I had to kind of change the way I live in the future in terms of like getting into like climbing up the social ladder in that sense, I would say. Because in Asian culture or like in Asia, people always be like competitive. They want to like do their best in all kinds of things. So that was kind of like a crazy moment for me in terms of you need to do a test, and then that kind of determines like what you're going to do for the next few years in terms of what kind of major, whether you go to law, become a lawyer, and it kind of changed the whole course of your life in the coming years potentially. So it's kind of scary at the same time. But after doing that, I finished my 4-year Bachelor of Law degree in Hong Kong. Because
is that the same thing as a law school, or is that a college?
Yeah, it's like university. Yeah, it's a university. So it's kind of like, it's different from the US for sure, because US you can't do, like you need to do a non-law bachelor degree first before even going to the law, like, which is actually a good decision for you guys in terms of you have other kinds of experiences and knowledge before actually deciding to go into such a very intellectually challenging law degree. But in Hong Kong, in the UK, we basically just do it right away. If you want to do it at university as a bachelor degree for 3 or 4 years, and then you do a practical law course for a year or so, and then you can work as a trainee solicitor, which is the equivalent of a first year attorney in the US, I think. So that's the way how it works.
So what made you decide to pick up and go, why'd you pick Cambridge? Why'd you pick the UK?
Well, honestly, like, because actually I'm just being honest anyway, like, because originally when I told you about the public examination in Hong Kong, like when you pass it, you can decide which unit you get into. To be very honest, I didn't get my top choice university. And in Hong Kong, it was kind of weird that in the legal market, like the law firms or the people, they care a lot about the brands. Like, but that is actually really sad at the same time, because so many people, they will like go abroad to do a LLB degree, say, so that when they come back to Hong Kong, they practice as a lawyer, they will be viewed more favorably by employers because of the fact that they actually try, have a Western education, which is a weird thing in Asia, I think, but it's just how the system works as well. So at that moment, I was like, the reason for picking Cambridge, one of the reasons is actually I watched a movie. Like, I watched a movie that is showcased Cambridge. I was just feeling, oh my God, that's kind of like really...
Which movie was it?
Like good vibe. Like it's the Man Who Knew the Infinity or something. I think it's talking about a mathematician.
I saw that movie. That was a good movie, by the way.
That was a good movie. Like, I was just impressed by the atmosphere. It's like so academic and so prestigious. The history of the Great Britain, it just made me really overwhelmed, and I really wanted to go there. That's probably one of the reasons. And another reason is probably also, of course, like if the fact that I got an offer from a very good university, I was really hyped and happy about that. So I definitely want to give it a go, and also to see whether how it will help me with my career as well. Like if I want to go back to Asia, because my original plan was always to go back to Asia after the master's degree. That was what I thought before getting the plane ticket, to the UK. So it was actually a pretty crazy thing that I actually ended up staying in the UK.
So after you got your bachelor's of law in Hong Kong, you knew that you were going abroad. So you were looking for, okay.
yeah, it's basically like because like the master's degree, it's like my final year of law school, and I applied to Cambridge, and then probably like almost the end of the law school, I knew that I would go there to study my master's degree. So that was the moment. So I kind of expected after graduation, I would go there.
So when did you, and you understand that you finished that, right? You've done with your master's degree at Cambridge, is that right?
Yeah, and my original plan was to actually go back to Hong Kong to become a barrister. I'm not sure whether you know the barrister solicitor, the distinction. It's kind of like those who actually go to the court or like litigate in front of the judges. Like it's usually the role of barrister in the English or Hong Kong legal system. So I was actually more like I was planning to be like a barrister in terms of not working in a law firm, because barrister working at like chambers, they are like self-employed in the sense that they need to pay rent for their office. They accept cases from people, and then they litigate in the court. But solicitor is more like they work for law firms, they are employees. So I was planning to go to the more entrepreneurial route in terms of like barrister at first. Like yeah, but it's probably a weird, like an alien concept for Americans in that sense, because I know you guys don't really care about the distinction. Like they're all like attorneys at law in general.
Yeah, if you get a JD and then you pass the bar, you can go to court or you cannot. Like you have that choice. So that's an interesting distinction. So you wanted to be the type of lawyer that wanted to go in court, and you were going to take your degrees and go back to Hong Kong and be a barrister there. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the plan. Yeah, that was the original plan.
So what changed? What changed your mind?
I just feel like because being a barrister, it was also, how to say, because it was a pretty much, I would say, like you don't have that many options in terms of working abroad. For example, if you're a barrister, say, because you're a barrister, you probably work in like a private practice in terms of they don't really have international offices, because you wouldn't go to the court of other country, right? So it makes sense that you just do it locally. It's not like a law firm, they handle deals with multiple jurisdictions. So that's the one key thing, because after Cambridge, I just met so many kinds of people, and they are like maybe commercial lawyers working for law firms. They have different kinds of experience. It's really exciting to actually work on things that are more international rather than just your own country. I just feel like I don't want to restrict myself to only one country in the rest of my life, because it just doesn't make sense for me in terms of because I'm the kind of person who love traveling, like meeting new people, like from other backgrounds, getting to know someone. So I just feel like it becomes natural to me to just work in a profession that actually has flexibility. And probably other than pilots, I think lawyers is a pretty good job. Like if you're working for international firms, for example, that sounds to me like, the way to go, like to work for an international firm, so that in the future, if I want to move back to Asia, or if I want to move to the US, say, I would have the possibility because I work for like a law firm that has offices all over the world. Then that would be perfect for my ambition or my like personality as well.
I think that's amazing. Like, I feel like what you're saying is very visionary. I mean, our economy is always growing more.
I like how you shaped my first in a very good way, which is good.
I'm not trying to kiss your ass, but I think it's very visionary because it's, this economy is moving towards, I mean, it's always been moving towards a global economy. We're becoming, I think, more global every year. And I think you hit on something that the younger generation, I think, embraces a lot more than us old folks. And I'll include my 47-year-old self in the old folk category. It's the travel, right? And to be able to pick up and move and not have your career affected so much that you're instantly you're 25, right? You're 25? Yeah. You're instantly diversifying yourself. Like that's huge. So when did you finish your schooling at Cambridge? Was that last year?
No, it was actually 2018, probably July 2018, as I remembered correctly, because I didn't get my job in the UK right away. I tried for like a year before actually getting an offer from a law firm in the UK. So basically, after I graduated from Cambridge, I kind of gave myself more time to find a job here before actually deciding to either go back to my country, which is probably the most usual thing people would generally do when they do a master's degree. But I just didn't want to do that. And that was a pretty tough decision for me as well, because I remember when I told that to my parents, they were shocked because they expected me to just go back home and be a good son and be a lawyer back to my country. And I ended up telling them, yeah, I want to stay in the UK and try to stay. And they were really shocked. And they were probably they were at first they were really against this idea. So it was pretty tough for me. I think in that sense as well, not only about the job market, it's about the family, expectation, especially from someone who is of, Asian background as well. Because I think family in our culture is also a big thing. So it's also so I think it's a various concerns and also obstacle in that sense for me.
So you've been in the UK since you finished your degree at Cambridge, right? You've stayed there.
No. I think that's also was the difficult part, because after I graduated, I think I have 5 more months before my visa expired, because visa is such a tricky thing. I'll say in general, just because as a foreigner, when you want to work in a specific country, you basically need to find an employer that kind of sponsor you and is able and willing to sponsor you under the law. They need to be a licensed sponsor by the government, and also they need to be willing to sponsor you. So that I think that was an obstacle for most international people, even in the US or in UK or in any other country like that. But just in general, that was the hard part. So that I actually worked in the UK for a while, getting some temporary roles at firms. And then after that, I didn't get any specific offer. So my visa expired. So my only option was to go away from, go out of the UK. But I didn't want to go back to Hong Kong, because I told you before, I decided to work in the UK, and I told my family that I really want to pursue that route, and they were not happy with the idea at first. So I didn't want to go back, because if I went back, I just felt I make a wrong decision, because I said, I came back now without any job. That is it wasn't what I want. So I just need to find something to help with my CV so that I could have a higher chance in the future. So I flew to Italy instead and got an internship at an intergovernmental organization. So I stayed there for probably 3 or 4 months, and I worked there. And at the same time, I still try to apply for a job in the UK. I just try to maximize my chance, to see how it will go. But at the end, I actually also didn't get anything, even after the internship at Italy. So my plan was I still need to fly back to Hong Kong. I still have to fly back to Hong Kong, and I flew back to Hong Kong. That was the moment when I kind of need to decide whether I want to stay or I still want to try the UK by applying for a different visa, so that I can extend my length of stay in the UK to try a few more times, maybe, to apply for more firms.
So, and that worked, right? You're back in the UK now, right?
Yeah. So basically, that wasn't even that wasn't actually a plan. That was just my because I at that time I thought okay, now what? I was at that time I probably was 24, right? Yeah, 24. I was 24. I still have the time to try a bit more. I feel like I still have the time to decide whether I want to stay within my comfort zone for the rest of my life, because I'm pretty sure, honestly, if I went back to Hong Kong, I would feel comfortable with my life then, because I wouldn't have the courage or the incentive to do something more, to move to other country after a few years. For example, when I got into my 30s, how would I choose something? I wouldn't do that. I might have family as well at that time, so it doesn't make sense to me to wait, because some of the people, they just tell me, okay, because you have right now you're young, just work a few years in back your country, and then if you want, you can always move out of your country in the future, which does make sense, which is completely fine. But for me, I just felt I probably would be just comfortable with the situation, so I didn't choose that route. So I applied for my visa, and I told myself that visa will last for 2 years, right? So I told myself, okay, I'll give myself 2 more years to try, to get an offer in the UK as a foreigner. So if I felt, okay, I accept that, I wouldn't regret anything, because I tried 2 years, which is a lot, I think. And And yeah, that was my bet basically. So I basically applied for the visa and I got that 2 years. And the fortunate thing was that right after I came back to the UK, I got like an interview at my current like the firm which gave me the offer. So I have an interview with them, and I got the offer right after I applied for the 2 year visa, which is a really it was a blessing for me, and I was really blessed. I was so happy for that. So right now I'm just under that visa, working on some kind of like legal roles before starting to work with my law firm, because in the UK the law firm, they recruit 2 years in advance. So I will start next year, like in March, like basically. So that's basically like kind of like how the story went.
There's so much that I want to unpack on that, but I just want to make sure that before we wrap up your timeline of story, I get this right. You're now at Baker McKenzie, right?
Well, I'm not technically working for them at the moment, but because in the UK, we need to do, as I say, like a practical course. It's like a year, 7 months to a year. So I need to do this course under the sponsorship of Baker McKenzie, so that after finishing the course, I would officially work for them as a trainee solicitor, which is first year attorney in the US. So that was the plan. And I will start the course in this July, so that I will finish it by next year, January. And I will start my role in March next year. Yeah.
As a trainee solicitor.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm with you. All right. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
But so here's why I wanted you to come on the podcast, because I think by the age of 25, you've done way more than I have at 47. Like what you've done on social media, you formed your own, own organization, Global Lawyers Network, to help other students that want to learn and work internationally. You've grown your LinkedIn following. You've created a YouTube channel with a successful YouTube following. It's amazing. When I looked at you and I came across you, like I got on LinkedIn about 6 months ago. I mean, like really got on LinkedIn 6 months ago. And I was just amazed that someone so young could be so focused and driven. And I looked into your story and you talked about some of that today. And what I saw was how authentic you were. And the two things that strike me from our conversation today are your ability and willingness to take risks, and you accepting failure, but not letting it stop you. And I want to talk about those separately. So let's talk first about taking risk. Is that just who you are, or is that something you learn to develop? Can you speak on that?
Well, honestly, I think I wouldn't say that was something I was born with, to be honest, because I think it's probably something that it was deep inside my mind, but I was kind of suppressed, or like I would, how do you say, because like living in Hong Kong, say, we have a very systematic way of living our life or like having our career, because everyone is doing the same, like go to a good school, get into a good university, do well in school, and then get a good job, stable job, and then have a good family, like nice family, have kids, and then ask your kids to go to the school, get good grades, ask them to, like it's kind of repetitive, and it's the way that people live in general. It just made me feel like, because at first I would say, my family, I didn't have a really like wealthy family, so that like although I really appreciate like all the lessons my parents have taught me in the past year in terms of how to live life or how to be a good person, but I would say like because of the financial situation, I couldn't have the freedom to take risks in terms of like actually going aboard and do a 4-year or 3-year law degree, which was not an option for me. So that for me, it was like the master's degree. It was kind of like my only chance to try something new in my life, and that I wasn't, restricted by anything, because my like I just feel like that was the moment, and I just didn't want to like, I didn't want to like, for example, when I become 80 years old and I told my kids or grandkids like, okay, so like when I was 24, I had this chance to work in the UK and stay there to have my life as a UK legal professional or something. But I didn't take that chance. Like, I just didn't want to have this scenario. I'd rather tell them, oh yeah, I tried to work in the UK, but I failed, so I went back home. I would rather tell that story rather than the story that I didn't even making any changes at all in my life. It was a boring story. Yeah.
Well, so when you I'm gonna freeze the moment where you made the decision to renew your visa for 2 years. Instead of going home to Hong Kong and getting that safe cush job, and being around family and friends that you grew up with, you made the decision to try and stick it out. Did you have any self-doubt about that? Did you ever question yourself that was the right decision?
No, of course. I think everyone probably has doubts, especially when they kind of make a decision that is not a popular opinion. Because basically, I think whenever I told anyone, even my friends or family, that I actually wanted to stay in UK, I think no one actually understood. Which I understood why they didn't understand, because because everyone has different ideas of what they actually want. But basically, it was a very difficult decision, because even the career advisors at my university, they just kept saying just come back, and there it will be difficult for you, maybe the cultural differences and also diversity, it may be more difficult for you to climb up the ladder, or to be more like the leadership position or anything. It was just more difficult for foreigner. What I always heard about are the difficulties or are the risks involved, but no one have ever told me anything about what if you make it, what you may get out of it by just taking the risk. So I was just so, and also I think I was the kind of person, and I'm still am the kind of person, when everyone say that is not possible, or you shouldn't do that, I would really want to volunteer to do that, to kind of show them that is not impossible. Because it's just, how can you say something is impossible, or it's just, it doesn't make sense. Because for me, it's just a matter of whether you actually want to give it a go, or whether you want to pursue that goal. And I think it's okay to fail, because I also don't want to tell everyone that, for example, if you have a dream, you need to definitely pursue that. Because I do agree that to some extent, whether you are successful in your career, there is an element of luck. There's so many talented people in the legal profession. They may be very talented. Maybe they still couldn't get a job or a role at a law firm. So that's definitely, I think, because when I say that you need to pursue your dream, some people may think, I don't want to give also the vibe or the concept that you would definitely be successful no matter what, if you pursue that, because that's not the real life. Because sometimes stuff happen and just people couldn't actually achieve their dream. That is possible. But I think the problem is how much you want that. If you really want that, then you would just pour all your efforts into the application, into the process. Then I think the chance of being successful will be pretty high if you pour all your energy into something. And so I think that's the consideration you need to have, and you need to kind of ask yourself how much you wanted that opportunity. So that was probably my conclusion, and I really wanted to try. So that's why I kind of, I did that despite all the opposite opinions, or all the disagreements, etc.
Well, I think that's interesting, because you're in a space where you're getting a lot of no's, a lot of you can't do that, or that's not probably the best path for you, but you chose your path anyway. And I think part of that has, and maybe I'm wrong, has to do with your gut feeling. You just instinctively know where you want to go. And even though all these voices are coming at you, telling you, that's not good, you stayed focused on what you wanted. Is there a piece of advice that you would give to people that are in that same scenario, where they want to go from point A to point B, but the voices and the feedback they're getting from other people are just, they can't do that? How do you tell them to stay focused on their goal?
Honestly, although I'm not sure whether I'm in the best position to give advice given my experience in life, but I would say in general, for me, because honestly, I have nothing to lose in terms of, I was new in the legal industry anyway. What's the worst outcome would be? Honestly, even though, for example, if I felt, 2 years, I would be 26, then without any legal roles in the UK, then I probably just could go back to my country and get any kind of role, paralegal, trainee solicitor back in my country. There's still possibilities. So my opinion is that, you just don't have much to lose, because there are some people, for example, who work at law firms. They even make the transition from the legal career to business, for example. They give up their whole career as an attorney. That was a big risk. They took that risk. I think that was even way more risky than me, because I just took a risk that turn out to be a spectacular failure, but it wouldn't really affect my career that much, because maybe just a waste of 2 years, maybe if you really want to say, then that's probably the cost. But well, probably just, yeah, imagine you just maybe, yeah, it's okay, 2 years, you could live up to maybe 70 or 80 or even 100 years old in the future. 2 years is nothing. Like, it's really nothing. Although I appreciate that some people, they may have financial concerns, their family problems. Those issues may preclude them from pursuing their goals, which is completely fine. But I think in general, if you don't have those concerns or problems, I just feel like it makes sense for you to give it a go anyway, because you just have nothing to lose. Well, you may experience hardships or, yeah, just crazy self-doubts for 2 years, but that's okay. You will survive that. You wouldn't die from that. Well, I mean, of course, if you have mental condition, etc., then that is a different issue. But in general, I think you can bear with that. I think sometimes young people or like people in general, they just underestimate their ability to deal with stress or, those like risk, for example. They actually could handle way more stress and risk that they could imagine if they actually give it a go. And also, if that's something that they really wanted to do, I think that's the even more important thing. Because if that's something that you kind of couldn't really live without, or is an idea or a dream that you couldn't really, yeah, I think if it's something that you really believe in, then I think it's just worth trying anyway.
And I wonder, and tell me if this has any bearing, and I'm wondering, without knowing the answer to this, if it's a cultural thing. Like in the United States, our education system is still very much get an education, get a job, raise a family, buy a house. Like it's very, it doesn't really teach entrepreneurial risks. It doesn't really teach risks. It's be safe, be an employee. Do you see differences in the UK and in Hong Kong from that culture, or is it the same?
But to be honest, I think this is probably what we are taught in general in the society, because that's the safest path. Especially that's what, especially when you tell this thing to, I would say, like even the older generation, they couldn't understand, to be honest, which I understand why, because in their generation, obedience or like they just follow the normal social, journey, then that they will be fine. They will have money in general. They could, they could have a good family, they have a good life. But the thing is nowadays, it's just everything is changing. Like the social media, there's so many different kinds of occupations other than the normal traditional jobs. But the older generation may not be able to appreciate it, or like they don't understand that. But the thing is, the world is kind of changing. So that's why for me, it's also important to always like meet new people, because I always think that if everyone has this international mindset, they connect themselves to each other, about everyone, different people's culture. You kind of unite the whole world together in the sense that everyone appreciates the differences between people, the differences between the opinions, what kind of job you want to do. Then actually it will lead to a better society in terms of everyone become more understand, they will understand other and also appreciate the differences more. So I think that's what I also want to promote as a foreigner in the UK. Say, whenever I meet someone new or like someone from a different background, I also introduce also my culture or like the food or the music, so that I just want to like kind of interact with different people, so that they kind of have a different attitude or like opinions on your culture. And at the end, it kind of really facilitate a diverse society in the sense that we all kind of encourage people to take risks or to do something different in their life rather than just following the same path. Because I think that also stems from the fact that because we are comfortable with the things that are similar to us, or people who are similar to us. Whenever people are kind of different from us, we kind of have an initial gut feeling that we are not really comfortable, because it's just not what we were taught, so that we're not comfortable with that idea or that that new initiative, etc. So I feel like the system itself is definitely kind of rigid in that sense, in terms of, in Asia, we also do the same thing what you guys are told in the US, in terms of having a stable traditional career. So I think what it takes is that there must be other people who do something differently and become successful by doing something different, so that you can encourage others to also pursue the same thing, or to actually go to, achieve their dream, so that other people think it's possible and it's not like some BS or,
Well, that's what I loved about seeing you. It's you're really, I mean, at 24, 25, because I think I started following you when you were at 24. I'm like 47-year-old woman following a 24-year-old man. Like this just seems wrong to me. But I love what you're doing because you are doing something so different, especially on social media. And we have a whole topic on that. I want to get to that. But I love that piece of advice is the more people that step out of the traditional role and follow their dreams and instincts and guts and do something different, then it tends to lead a path for other people. And I think that you're doing that. So I want to circle back one theme through your story, which is the setbacks, because you've openly talked about this on LinkedIn, your setbacks through your journey to becoming a trainee solicitor. You had several of them. When you had them, how did you continue to move on, or what was your mentality when you were going through them?
I would say honestly, because I kind of expected that, to be honest. It wasn't an easy journey in general. Well, I mean, honestly, if you're going to pursue something that is easy, probably you kind of need to rethink whether this is what your goal is as well, because that's just not generally what it should be. If you want to pursue a goal or something, it's called a goal because it shouldn't be easy in general. So I kind of expected that. But of course, that would be difficult in general, because at first I remember after I finished my master's degree, like basically all my best friends were my classmates, but they were all from different countries, because my cohort, we have like 24 people with like 18 nationalities. So basically everyone went back to their country. So I was kind of left alone in the UK in the sense that I was probably the only one who wanted to pursue a career here, despite a different, background or, nationality. So it was pretty tough at first, honestly, especially like I couldn't really have like very close relationship with, like, because it was difficult, honestly, because when you didn't have a job and you just graduated and all your friends were not in the country, then how could you socialize? I wouldn't like just hit in the bar and then, like it was weird. So I was just feeling like that was a difficult part in terms of I don't have the like support from the peers, maybe because my friends, they were all back home or like back in Hong Kong. So that was the difficult part for sure. But I think for me, it was more like I decided to do that. So I expected that. I couldn't complain about that because that was what I chose. And I just need to went through that. And of course there were setbacks, but I kind of figure out some solutions or ways to maybe relieve that stress, I would say, like maybe listening to some podcasts of people who also went through the same. Like I always say that I listen to lots of TED Talks in the past about like, because, one thing is all the successful people in the world in general, they probably went through some setbacks or, crazy, challenges, obstacles, like J.K. Rowling, Jack Ma, everyone. Like I read all the stories basically. So it really motivated me to just keep going because I wasn't special in the sense that I would be successful without going through that. That wasn't the plan. That wasn't what is expected in general from the successful people or the people who at least, who are doing what they want to do now. I think that was kind of like the thing that I anticipated, and I just need to go through it in order to be successful. And whether it will really turn out to be that, it depends on my luck and preparation, etc. But I think my mindset was just that I need to keep motivating myself by just listening those stories, learning from other people's stories so that I could motivate myself. Because I couldn't really like talk about this to my parents as well, because they are like the last group of people I want to contact when I have struggled. Because for parents, even though you're doing well, they're still worried. When you're doing not well, then it was even worse for them. So I was just like, it's okay, I would just handle it myself. I think that was probably the best for the best as well, so that they wouldn't worry that much. And I also, but every time when I call them, it was also difficult when they said, how's your job hunting going? I mean, I couldn't really say something good, so that I would just I'll just try to stay positive and say, I think it will happen soon. So let's see. I would just keep like saying some random stuff like, Yeah, so I think that was also a difficult part. But I think once you decide that was what you want to do, then you need to anticipate all the struggles you might go through. And you need to find your ways to relieve that stress. That could be like me listening to music or listening to podcasts, listening to story. It could be exercising, anything. But you need to find a way out like to release that stress. But other than that, I think, yeah, I just basically keep moving to see, how it would go.
I love that. I mean, I think, I've had, when I was 25, I did not have that mindset. Like, I wish I had that mindset. I wish I had been like, you know what, I'm going to face my goals and setbacks because I know they're coming. I didn't think like that. I just thought if I wanted to go to law school, I was going to graduate with honors. I was going to get the best job. I was going to make the most money. It didn't work out that way. But I wish I'd gone in thinking I could fail at that. And I didn't. So when I didn't hit my goals, I was very disappointed. So I love that, having that mindset. Look, here's my goal. I know that I'm going to hit setbacks along the way. Nobody's journey is free of speed bumps or mountains or whatever you want to call them. And I think you're right. The most successful people, if you look back at their journeys, it's been wrought with failure and twists and turns. Nobody has, maybe there are people that have had an easy journey. I have yet to meet one, but I love that approach. Before you set out on your journey, just know that you are going to hit roadblocks, and some of them won't be surmountable. Sometimes you'll have to figure out a way around them. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll have to turn back and start again. And I love that. So let me just switch something a little bit lighter, which is your social media stuff. You have such a huge following, but more importantly, you have a following that engages with you. Like, I look at your post and there's so many people that really love what you're doing, and they say it either through a like or a comment or a share. They really like it. Why do you think that is? Let me put you on the spot. What is it about you that gets that kind of engagement? Is it who you are? Is it what you talk about? Enlighten me on that.
I'm not sure whether I wouldn't say I have like expertise or any kinds of advice, honestly, because I was basically just posting. And for me, I think at first I was just feeling like no one was sharing anything. For example, when I wanted to get a job in the UK as a foreigner, say, I looked through like LinkedIn, no one was saying anything. I didn't know anyone who did that, for example, and no one was saying anything about doing something like that. I think nowadays it was just so common that when people, they accomplish something, just update their status on LinkedIn, and then people see, they like, but they
didn't actually. I did it.
But I did it in the past as well. But I'm just saying, like, they just kind of fast track the whole process to just showing you the results, but you never know like the whole process. For example, like, I mean, if I had someone like from Hong Kong who got a job in the UK as well before I did it, then I could talk to him or her so that he or she could tell me about the struggle I might have went through. That like I will have a better idea, for example, what I would expect from making this decision, or I will know about what are the tricks or potential tips I can use to be successful in this aspect. So for me, at first when I post on LinkedIn, I was just sharing like it was really hard for me to get a job in the UK, and I was really grateful that I didn't experience some like really hardship in family or anything like that. But in general, I think that was probably one of the hardest things in my life so far. But I do know that I appreciate that I didn't experience anything worse in terms of economic situation or other stuff. But in general, I just feel like that was the hardest thing I've experienced so far, so that I wanted to share with my audience. So I just want to be honest as well. And all the posts I make initially, say, for the first month, because I try to post almost every day for the first month when I try to start posting. Every day, I just post something that I literally thought about every day when I went through that struggle. For example, when I ran through the application process, I was just like, oh my God, like as a foreigner, it was tough, and how the firm didn't even bother to like give me feedback, etc. Even though I put my effort to make all the applications. So I think those are just the things that everyone resonate with you, but they just never speak up or like tell other people about that. And it makes sense because when you're in that state of, being unsuccessful, it's hard for you to share all those feelings online, because for me, it was easy because at that time I got my offer, I passed the New York bar. So I was like in a position that I could share those setbacks more openly because I kind of end up to be more successful, like in that sense, but not like really successful, but in terms of actually getting a job in the UK as a foreigner. So I think I was in a position to share that experience so that other people try to kind of resonate. And yeah, I think that was just how it is. Like I just basically share what I thought of during that period of the time. I think being genuine is important and also need to choose the form you like. For example, I would say even though I'm doing YouTube, for example, like, but my video is definitely not as good as my like articles or my passage, for example, or what my written works, you know, because some people, they are just good at videos or like delivering their messages through like podcasts, every kind of thing. But for me, I definitely think that works are the most powerful tools for me. So that I think through that, I could deliver way better messages than video, even podcasts. But I'm still here because I'm invited by you, and I'm really,
of course,
really appreciate that. Yeah, but just saying, like in general, I do know that my niche or my strength in terms of like even sharing the message, my platform was like works is my thing. Like I love sharing like kind of like literature, that kind of thing, because I also love reading or like. Yeah, so I think that was my platform. That was my niche, yeah.
When did you start consistently posting on LinkedIn?
I think probably last year, October. Yeah, I think it's November or October last year. And then right now I haven't like post every day. That is pretty difficult now. But yeah, back then I try to post as regular as possible.
So, and that's, and I think I followed you maybe 2 months later. I think I started around December, January is really consistent posting. And I know it takes time and how hard it is to get a following, and you have such a loyal following. And I think that's wonderful. And I think part of it is exactly what you talk about. It's being authentic, is talking about your struggles, because it's especially on LinkedIn, we'll talk about YouTube separately, but LinkedIn is a very traditional, professional business site. You know, you're not supposed to be, you know, wrong or vulnerable or whatever. And the fact that you show some of that is, I think it really resonates with people. And I love that. When you started posting on LinkedIn, did you have a strategy, or was it just, I'm just going to have some fun?
Honestly, for me, I just kind of stick to my style, because at first, or like my style was always sharing stories. And then at the end, I would kind of try to like deliver a message that I wish I would have known before. So that was my style completely, like story, and then the message I wanted to share with others. So that worked pretty well in terms of many people. That's actually something that people, they know deep inside their heart, but just no one actually tells them, you know, like outright. So that I think it's because of the story and also the message I'm trying to send. They kind of resonate with that and they find it useful and inspiring for them as well. Especially if you're an aspiring lawyer, you want to get into, say, a big law firm, or you want to work for an international law firm. If someone like me, a random guy from Hong Kong, end up getting a training contract in the UK could do it, then you raised in the UK, you be exposed to the culture, the system here, you should have a chance. I think probably that just delivered the right message to them that if I can do it, you guys probably can do it. Like that's pretty, I think that's the motivating part maybe for them, like for the aspiring lawyers. So I think that's why for me it's more like, so I always think that honestly, to even like, I wouldn't say even build a following, but just the fact that you want to be like someone that really motivating or like inspirational to people. I think the first part and inseparable is that you really need to do your best in your life. Like for example, for me, if I share like I'm just a normal guy, like normally in terms of like I didn't take risks, I just stick to my normal routine, like what is expected of a normal law graduate in Hong Kong, then probably it wouldn't be appealing to them in general. So I think it's the fact that you're already working hard within your career, and you have the right mindset, you have the right motive, you have the right values in your life. And then by having all those things, and then you share your thoughts or your values, people will resonate with you because they respect you by being who you are, by actually doing those things that other people wouldn't normally just go for it, I think that's the key for me. And so that's why I didn't really have a very crazy strategy for like LinkedIn in general. I think that's probably why.
And it's also interesting to see kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems born out of your social media journey was that you developed this organization, was it Global Lawyers Connect? Connect. And that seemed to address a lot of the questions that you were getting. Well, let me first say, describe what Global Lawyers Connect is and what its goal is.
Yeah, honestly, it probably was born of my experience as a foreigner in the UK, because I bet you're in the US, you also heard a lot about foreigners wanting to work in the US in general. You probably receive message like this as well, like from time to time. I think it's just kind of inevitable that everyone wants to work in leading legal markets. Could be in Asia, even Hong Kong, and UK and US, Canada, Australia, wherever. And I think that's the point for Global Lawyers Connect. Is firstly, I want to give them the right kind of information about breaking into a different career, because you can't really find those information. That's why for me, when I passed my New York bar exam, say as a foreigner, and so also when I got my training contract in the UK as a foreigner, everyone asked me those questions because they didn't know anyone who did that and shared their information with them. So I think the first goal is definitely to share those information and facilitate that sharing. The secondly, I think it's also good to know the stories of others who make it, in the sense that they make it in other jurisdiction as a foreigner or foreign lawyers, so that those kids or those younger people, they see that it is possible for them to do so as well. That is definitely the inspirational or motivating effect I want to achieve. And thirdly, it was probably the most, like the long-term goal for the organization, is that, for example, when I was in the UK, I tried to attend networking event. In the UK, it was really good that they actually have events for, say, ethnic minorities. They tailor to them. For example, they have maybe what we call BAME, ethnic minorities events that is designated for people who come from a lower economic background, from a different race. Those people can specifically attend those events. So, which is helping them to bridge the gap and also to diversify the legal profession. But I didn't find anything about like events specifically for foreigners, say, or foreign lawyers. That was kind of sad for me, because sometimes I wasn't eligible for some of the ethnic minorities event because I was a graduate from postgraduate law degree and I wasn't raised in the UK. So it was just difficult for international people to even navigate their route, because they couldn't even attend a law firm event, which is a substantial part of getting that offer, because you need to interact with the people there, but you didn't have the means to do that. So I really want in the future to have law firms organizing, say, even a virtual event for members of Global Lawyers Connect, so that they can attend those events, learn about the law firms, even though it's a distant learning process. And also maybe after the pandemic, they can organize a specific event in London, so that like all the international students here or foreign lawyers, they can attend those events to learn about the firm. I think that's probably the thing I really want to achieve in the long run. And I probably will try to do it in the UK first, where I'm physically in. But I do want to promote this concept abroad, for, say, in the US, because definitely there are way more international students as well in the US, or international lawyers who want to work in the US. But those law firms probably wouldn't do that much for international lawyers as well. So I do think that this is like the long-term goal I want to achieve.
I think that's great. And I see several younger lawyers on social media taking on initiatives like that, they see a need, they see a hole in whatever market, whether it's a networking issue or a legal issue, whatever it may be, and they take it upon themselves to fill it. I think that's great. What kind of response? I think you started like a month or two ago. You started Global Lawyers Connect.
About a month. Yeah, a month and a week or 2 weeks. Yeah, a month and 2 weeks. Yeah.
What kind of response have you gotten so far?
Yeah, I think it was really good in terms of, honestly, statistically speaking, it was really good in terms of the audience. I gathered a big group of audience. Like the LinkedIn page we have like 4,000 followers, which is amazing for a platform that just recently launched. And we have a Facebook group that people kind of share their experiences, when we have like 3,700 people there as well on our Facebook group. And our website, we also have 5,000 visitors so far, like users of the website looking at our articles and the resources we provided with the members. In the future, although I also plan to organize more webinars for people from different countries. For example, we're going to organize webinar for Leiden University in the Netherlands, talking about how to break into the UK and US legal market. We also plan to do something more with some even like, course providers. Like we are trying to reach out to organizations that help lawyers qualify, so that like international organization, I probably shouldn't mention the name because right now it's in the preparation stage or like discussion stage. But in general, we have been doing things, and we try to reach out to as many people as possible, and also provide more tangible advice in the future as well.
I think that's amazing. I think that's absolutely amazing. And the other part of social media that you're doing is your YouTube channel. How do you find how you find that I started a YouTube channel. I have a whole 112 subscribers. So I know how hard it is. And I looked at yours last night, and you have like, I think close to 3,000, which I think is great. Like how is that going for you?
Something. But I think YouTube channel is even more difficult because, as I mentioned, I wouldn't say I'm more like a video guy, like, to be honest, compared to my writing. I love writing in general, so like, even when I was a law student, I loved writing essays and things. So I think I express my things better in that sense. But I think video is also good because you can kind of really, sometimes when you can see the audience, like the audience can see you, which is a good for them if they really like agree or support what you're doing. So I think for that is probably a more long form content for my audience, because when they read my post on LinkedIn, they may appreciate it, but they may want more in-depth information. So the YouTube channel is a very different thing. Although in the UK, we have some people, lawyers who have a really big followings on YouTube as well, but they do have the ability to actually showcase their personality rather than just, giving practical advice. I think there are always two types of people on YouTube. Some people, they are good at just showcasing their personality and to actually, which is attractive to some audience, and they look up to people like that. The other side is if you just want to give information or more like, advice or like some sharing your experience, that kind of thing. And I think for me, I probably just go that path in terms of, just sharing my experience and give practical advice. So I didn't work that hard on trying to build a personality on the platform in general. So for me, I would say like YouTube is more like something that I'm interested in general, because I watch a lot of YouTube videos in general, so that I want to be, part of it. So I didn't really have a long-term plan about the YouTube channel in general, but it was really hard. I admit to, if you want to build a followings or something.
Yeah, YouTube's hard. I mean, hard. I think
it's really hard.
I wanted to get on it because I was like, there's not a lot of lawyers on there. I mean, there's a handful, and there's a couple that are crushing it. And
I think there's one US attorney I came across, is Legal Eagle or something. Yep. I think probably he's the only one I even know, like, because he's so famous, or like, it's really successful delivering some really informative content in a funny way. But other than that, it was really hard. There's
nobody else. Like, that's the same thing. That's the only guy I found. I think there's a couple lawyers that have like 1,000 or 2,000, but then there's him, and it's like he's like 3 million subscribers. Like, and he gets like millions of views, and it's fascinating. I mean, I gotta think he's monetized the heck out of that by now. That's probably his source of income. But I think it's such a ground for lawyers if you want to put the time into it, and the time being like a year. You got to commit at least a year, and you got to love it, because it's hard. I've taken a little bit of a step back because I started out doing podcasting, LinkedIn and YouTube, and I'm like, I can't do all three at once, like not effectively. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to continue with YouTube. I'm just not going to put the energy into it that I do the podcast and LinkedIn. just because I know those two at this point, and that's where I want to direct my energy. And that's where I feel like I'm stronger. Like you, I'm stronger on certain platforms. I'm stronger on certain mediums than I am on that. But well, listen, I know we're wrapping up on time here. I really appreciate you coming on. I love what you're doing with the Global Lawyers Connect. What a great cause. So if any of the people listening, make sure that you check out their webpage, you check out their LinkedIn profile and connect and follow them. I just have a couple follow-up kind of silly questions for you because you mentioned reading. You like to read. Tell us what you're reading right now.
Well, actually, right now, like that's the thing. Right now, because of the commitment, I didn't read. But I think the last book I read was, I mentioned it on several platforms as well. It was 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. That was actually a good book for me. I think because it's kind of like you talk about the rules for people, or for young people specifically, or even people in general, that what they should, like the rules they should kind of adhere to in terms of to live a meaningful life. I think that book is pretty inspiring for anyone, I think, honestly. And another book I really recommend is The 6 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think that is probably one of the best books I ever read. Probably kind of shaped a little bit about my thought process during that period of time when I didn't get my job or like having those setbacks. It helped me a lot in terms of realizing what I want to do and why it is common to fail. I think that's also, actually there's a book I think I suddenly remember there's another book I read. It's called How to Fail by Elizabeth Day. I think something like that. That is also a pretty interesting book to read as well. Yeah, but right now at this moment I'm not reading anything new.
Well, those are great suggestions. I've read one of them, How to Influence People. That's the one I've read, which was awesome. Who do you find the most interesting on social media? Who are you following that you think is putting out some cool stuff?
You mean who? What, legal professional or anyone?
It could be anybody. Just somebody that you think is crushing it right now.
I mean, well, there's some obvious answers. For example, Gary Vee.
Gary Vee.
Yeah, like that's pretty obvious. And I actually listened to quite a lot of his videos as well when in the past, because he's doing a pretty, how to say, because he's like really honest in terms of like, giving you a like giving you the most brutal but honest answer sometimes, which is actually good, I think, because I would rather someone to like just actually tell me something right away rather than just trying to, just saying some odd random thing but not making a point, which is even worse. So I love his honesty and also the practicality of the advice as well.
Yeah, he's the reason I started my social media stuff. My strategy was I was like, he'd like smack me in the face, like, why aren't you doing this? And I'm like, right. Why am I not doing this? So
he's definitely smashing it like any platforms or like the way he's doing his business or any kind of marketing or anything. Yeah.
And I think what I take from him is just give value. I know everyone throws about the word value these days, but it's true. Just give value and give it for free. And especially if you're in an industry like the legal profession where you have a ton of knowledge in the head of yours, presumably we have lots of knowledge. Just give it out. Like obviously you can't give legal advice, but you can give some knowledge that helps people. So just do it. So I love that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Yeah, he definitely influenced me a lot in that sense.
Well, where can people find you? We're going to wrap this up. So let me just end by, where can people find you?
Yeah, I think, definitely LinkedIn. And I think, actually, like maybe Instagram or YouTube channel. I think all those are just Golden Chong. So basically it's pretty easily, like searchable. So, but definitely send me a message if they have any kind of question. I would try my best to help. And also check out Global Lawyers Connect for sure if you want something international in terms of your career and you want some advice or resources, or to connect with people from other side of the world. I think that would be a great platform for them as well.
Well, I love it. So if you're listening, make sure you follow Global Lawyers Connect. Make sure you follow Gordon Chong on all of his social media channels, because you run different content across of them. So make sure you follow on, and make sure you subscribe to our podcast. I would love to make sure that every time we release a new episode, it gets knocked up to the top of your feed. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Gordon, I super appreciate your time. I know it's valuable.
Yeah,
and
it's my pleasure.
I love it. It was so much fun. I could probably talk to you for like another hour. I'm going to pick your brain at some point privately about all of your social media stuff even more, but super thank you. And everybody, thanks for listening. Until next time on the Defense Never Rests, we will see you then.